Mr. Chairman. Thank you to the witnesses. I want to just lay out some numbers. I think it's intriguing. Cybersecurity hacks are costing us, according to some reports, $320 billion a year. That's unto U.S. citizens. That's about 1% of our GDP, our gross domestic product. As it's been talked about, Iran, China, Russia, North Korea. And at the individual level, people have to worry about their bank accounts. You have statistics that say that 1 in 3 Americans have been affected by healthcare data breaches alone just in 2024. And so there's so much to gain, not only from our national security being hindered, but as Mr. Wells, you said in your testimony, they are preparing for war, talking about China and their desire as it pertains to Taiwan. I want to throw an interesting concept out. The Constitution actually talks about in Article 1, Section 8, something called letters of marque and reprisal. This is something that's not I alone am talking about. This is something that goes back to even legislation that was filed a few years ago. And if you think about when you all have been talking about we've got to go on the offensive, we all recognize we've got a massive debt. There's a limitation to how much we can spend. And throughout our nation's history, letters of marque and reprisal were the opportunity for people that, knowing that private entities were being attacked, our government would issue very limited in scope information for private entities to go out and be able to capture, to hack back, and it was applied to this scenario, versus waiting on government to respond. Sometimes if you're a security firm trying to defend a private company, and as the saying goes, in terms of companies right now, there's 2 types of companies in this world, those that have been hacked and those that will be hacked. There's a delay. Why would we not empower the free market to hack back under very specified, regulated rules, constitutional in every manner, letters of marque and reprisal, go on the offense, and employ what we know are really intelligent people in the technology entity, and we make it hard for people to want to go after America. That they know that if they hack Americans under these very specific details, having to identify where the hack came from, that CISA could be involved with, we immediately hit back, and it is a great deterrent for aggression from foreign nations. I've got about 2 minutes left. Who would like to speak to that?
Well, I'll start only because I'm from the Navy, and the last the last ship seizure was, I think, by the Navy in World War II under a similar theory. What I'll say is, I would prefer that we actually developed a cyber force that could do this, where we were robust enough. So I first have to acknowledge that the right long-term answer, just like it was with special forces after 9/11, was to grow our special forces to be the force we needed. In the short term, on occasion, you may need to use contractors to bridge yourself to that point, but I think the long-term preference is that we have military actors. Now, to get at your point, those military actors in a cyber force don't have to be wearing a uniform, and we don't have to recruit people that look like Chairman Crane looked like when he first joined the Navy. They can be a little overweight. They can have an unusual drug usage recently.
I've got limited time,
so I would say I would go for that. In the absence of that, we need to look at the use of contractor elements through this. I would not go to independent companies.
All right, let me, because this has been cited. People say, well, that you would open up the Wild West. It's already the Wild West already. And somebody would say, well, you don't know what would happen if you did that. Don't you think that's what the founding era, when they issued letters of marque and reprisal, had to worry about, is somebody unintentionally that shouldn't be impacted? Of course they did. So for anybody that says there's a risk to this, you're right. But our founders knew on open waters there was the same amount of risk. The problem is, I contend, we're in a place where we think government is the solution to everything, and that's why we have a $36 trillion gross national debt. And we've got a limitation on fiscal resources. I love what you're saying. Some of you come from a government background, but maybe we don't need to just be looking at the status quo. Our founding fathers knew there were risks with this, but they put it in our Constitution, and they were brilliant. Anybody else want to talk about this?
Agreeing with Mr. Montgomery here, I would caution that there is higher potential collateral damage as a result of uncoordinated.
Can I interrupt you? Is there anybody who's willing to think outside the box on this? Not from a government background. Do you not think the founding fathers also thought this thing through and knew, it could be dangerous to empower privateers to go do this? But they did it. Think about Dunkirk. There's a time when government can't solve all your problems, and they hire or ask 800 boats to go help out. Dunkirk would have been a collapse absent utilizing the free market.
I think I'm far enough outside the box recommending for a 7th military service, a cyber force, so I'm going to leave myself.
I'm pushing pretty hard, but we've got to think outside the box, the limitation of federal expenditure. And with that, Mr. Chairman, I yield.